Alima kicked Remell to the curb, as she should, because how is the first thing coming out his mouth is, are you not going to let me speak, and not, I'm sorry? Absolute ridiculous. And the audacity of the men this season is just astronomical. So of course, Alima finds out the tea from Helena and Emily. She finds out what Remell was up to. He was kissing outside the challenges, he was sharing the bed, all sorts, and alluding to the fact that he really wanted to pick Poppy. And she calls him out rightly as a coward, because if you were doing all of that and you know how I am, you know I'm a strict babe, why don't you just bring back Poppy? Because you're a coward. They end up having two conversations. In the first one, Alima's just basically like, it's locked off. You've been disrespectful. You know I'm strict. You know I'm one strike babe. And it's over with. He's going like, oh, you're not going to let me speak. You're not going to let me speak. And you're not going to hear where I'm coming from. What is there to say? You're guilty and you're a dirty dog. Like, what is there left to say? Then he starts talking about, oh, all you have is chat. You never let me speak. Like, I don't even want you no more, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, whatever. Next day, he's talking with Dijon. Dijon's like, just squash the beef, put your pride aside. He's talking about, I don't even care about Alima at this point. In a real life, I would have ghosted her. And I know he would, because he's a typical F-boy with a loose dick. And just like Alima said, he was a coward. He wanted to couple up with Poppy, and he didn't, because he didn't want the smoke from Black Twitter, and he didn't want the smoke from being voted out. So he chose Alima as the safe bet. But my thing is, I don't know what this angle he thought he was going to be coming at. It seems like in his head, he's done absolutely nothing wrong because he's single and they're not closed off. So he has been entitled to behave however he behaved at the sleepover, right? And to some degree, I kind of get that. But at the same time, you know what Alima's boundaries are and you know what Alima's standards are. So you cross these boundaries knowing that Alima's going to have a problem with it. That's disrespectful to Alima. Alima made it very clear what type of person she is, what type of person she dates. You could have been like, look, I get where you're coming from, but when I'm single, I kind of do whatever I want until I'm locked in with someone, and we're not at that point yet. You didn't want to do that. You wanted to keep things quiet. And you wanted to be like, you know what, I never done this before, but you're special, so I'm going to do this way, right? So what is there left to say? If anything, you should have been like, you know what, I'm open to exploring, but maybe I could have been a bit more respectful to you, and I get where you're coming from, and I apologize because, you know, I disrespected you and I crossed your boundary. I don't want to come with none of that because he thinks he's too nice. And he's been thinking he's too nice for Alima this whole time. Alima, she has a conversation just to basically be like, well, we're done romantically, but we can be civil. And he just refuses to apologize. And they basically go off that way. She basically deads the conversation because it's like, you're not going to take accountability for anything. But then she's just kind of like, I know who you are. She knows who he is. He's given very much like South London F-boy. He thinks he's too nice. There looks to be a vote out in the next episode. Somebody's going to be up for the chop. And I hope that he's in the bottom, at the very least, to be humbled. But I got to hear from you guys. Do you feel like Alima was doing too much? Or do you feel like... And do you feel like Remell was being disrespectful? Because he is single, but I feel like I said, Alima made it very clear what her boundaries were in this relationship, and he agreed to them. They came to an understanding, and he basically was just like, fuck it, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. How do you feel like he handles the conversation? Obviously, Alima wasn't letting him get a word in, but it's just because he just started gaslighting straight away. And I kind of like, yeah, like if you're just going to come into this conversation on bad faith, I don't really care what you have to say. So personally, this thing of you're not going to let me talk, to say what? You're a dirty dog and you're guilty, to say what? So I kind of rate Alima just cutting things off and not letting him get his point across, and he was so frustrated, and it's just like, you're fucking pathetic. But yeah, I gotta hear from you guys. And what is next for Alima? What is her next point of contact going to be? I guess someone's getting dumped, and they're probably going to bring in a new bombshell. Hopefully the bombshell is for her. Fingers crossed. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on the whole situation.